The next morning, we retraced our footsteps back to the entry cavern and snuck through it south, finding a small hallway with a single door in the far southern wall, the door itself glowing with a soft orange light. Suspecting it to be magical in some way, the door proved to be wizard-locked, so picking it wouldn't do any good. Further examining the door, Redfern noticed a tiny metallic flap about eye level in the door. Sliding the flap to one side, there was a tiny hole there we could use to apparently peer into the room beyond. Pointing to the tiny hole, Eswin stepped to it and looked. I see several tall creatures inside, with large horns extruding from their heads. The brave warrior sneered, then turned back to our party, his news troubling. They look like that spined devil we fought back at the Baron's mansion, but I see several of them. Both Redfern and Cartha looked, quickly confirming Eswin's observation. What are infernals doing here within the depths of the Gep Power Tower? Redfern asked aloud. Infernals, you say? Darius answered, surprised. There were whispers of the ultimates attempting to summon demons and devils in the past. I never once believed them to be true. It's probably best we just leave them be, Sainairs suggested, recalling all too well how difficult it was to slay just one of these monsters. The door is likely wizard-locked for a reason. Using the magical key we had found the previous day and carefully opening the door, we stepped into the natural cavern beyond, the four spined devils immediately turning in our direction. Grinning with the prospect of overwhelming us, they attacked, not interested in anything we had to say. While defeating just one back at the Baron's mansion was difficult, we now knew how to attack and defend ourselves with the spined devils and made short work of them, beating them down and forcing them to retreat into the far southeastern corner, humbled and now quite intimidated by us. What are you infernals doing here in Sycilis? Darius demanded to know, still surprised by their presence. How do you not know this, your kind, who summoned us here? One of the monsters whispered on the verge of death. The ultimates summoned you here? Redfern responded, growing angry. The ultimates brought you here to their underground dungeon? The devils nodded in agreement, very much wanting to kill all of us but too injured and afraid now to do anything. There is a passage, to the west, another of the infernals offered, eyeing us suspiciously. That leads down to a lower level, where we were first summoned. The ultimates have since sealed the level. If you go there, more of us will slay you. Both a threat as well as warning, it sounded like more infernals awaited my party if we decided to descend into this lower level. Consider us warned, Eswin responded, turning to leave. Let's go. Continuing west and reaching this slightly glowing door in the northern wall, we found that it was wizard-locked as well. Putting my ear up to the door and listening intently, I could hear movement from within. The chamber beyond was certainly occupied. I believe I then heard a bird's cry, like an eagle or hawk as well, but that was about all I could tell. This door is similar to the one where we fought the spined devils, Eswin recognized, warning the party. Perhaps more infernals wait within. Which only means we will be attacked again if we try to get in, Cartha conjectured. Maybe we should move on. Everyone turned to me, waiting for my orders. I then withdrew the magical key and gave the door a try, unlocking it and pushing forward into the room. Inside were half a dozen tall, vaguely humanoid creatures with a vulture's head and bat-like wings armed and dressed for combat. The creatures looked us over, trying to decide whether to attack or not. More infernals I believe, Cartha whispered into my ear. I don't know much about these, but they look well suited for combat. Surveying our party as possibly their next meal, the monsters took to the air, about to attack. Undaunted, Eswin stepped forward, shouting to the monsters with defiance. We've already defeated the spined devils to the east. Smell their blood and fear on all of us, and attack at your peril. Indeed, the monsters could smell something that unnerved them, intimidating the infernals and causing them to back away into the far corner, lying down on the cavern floor. Did the ultimates summon you here? Redfern demanded to know, looking at Darius for a moment. We promised an entire world to attack and plunder, one of the infernals responded, angry but still very afraid of our party. The black robes offered much, and then locked us away down below. The monster pointed at Darius, again confirming that it was the ultimates who drew the infernals here for some reason. There are many more of us, down below, another of the Vrox ridiculed, attempting to frighten us. Our brethren will soon escape, and all of you will die. The spined devils said the same thing, Redfern reminded me. It appears we will face more of these infernals soon. Why the ultimates summoned them to Mariga in the first place is beyond me, Eswin criticized. Well, take them out if we have to. Continuing west, we encountered yet another wizard-locked door in the northern wall that glowed with the same soft orange light. Again, the magical key I had found opened the door and we immediately stepped inside. Inside the natural cavern were yet more infernals, these appearing similar to the spined devils we had faced but with large bat wings and holding two tined forks that looked quite offensive. The monsters smiled in evil anticipation of destroying my party and freeing themselves, attacking immediately. The horned devils were larger than any man with incredibly durable skin, bat-like wings, and large horns on their head, hence the name. They attacked with two tined forks along with a poisonous tail, which soon poisoned Huelsman, making him extremely sick. Their worst attack, however, was their ability to cause fear, which soon affected both Cartha and Redfern, our party losing them for the remainder of the battle. Certainly more powerful than the spined devils, the last of them finally went down, the monsters fighting so viciously that we had no choice but to destroy every one of them. More of these damned infernals. Huelsman complained, hating them almost as much as undead. These demons can't be trusted, why would the ultimates even try to ally with them? Darius questioned, visibly upset as well. I am guessing it didn't go well, Cartha suggested, given that they've all been locked up. I suspect we will find out more soon enough. Reaching this iron door against the far western wall, it was closed and wizard-locked like the others. Worse, heavy iron chains had been fastened to the door as well, not only could we not get in, but anything within was not getting out either. Someone had taken great pains to secure this gate, so I thought twice before attempting to undo it all and proceed forward. Indeed, even the magical key didn't work, forcing Darius to cast a knock spell before breaking the chains and finally forcing the door open. We then entered what had clearly been a recent battle, bodies lay all about, blood spatter was everywhere and the stench of decay and death assaulted our noses like a slap in the face. The natural cavern appeared empty except for all the corpses, although what I thought was a stairway down appeared in the far corner of the grisly chamber. Searching the corpses would take some time, but it seemed the best play here. Conducting a thorough search of the battlefield, we found dozens of infernal corpses, a mixture of horned devils, spined devils, and a few rocks, just as we encountered within the chambers to the east. Most of the monsters here were killed by electricity, as if subjected to a massive lightning bolt. There were, however, dozens of human corpses as well, all of which were dressed in the familiar black robes of the ultimates. Hence, it appeared that just as many Chagarian sorcerers as infernals died here, the tremendous battle a stalemate. There! Huelsman shouted, pointing toward the stairway leading down in the far northwestern corner of the chamber. For just a moment, we spotted another infernal turn and dash away down the stairs. It appeared that there were more of the monsters here. If we take the stairway down, we will likely encounter more of them. Another stairway leading down? Cartha asked, peering ahead. We should investigate. Agreeing with Cartha, Huelsman led the party over to the stairway leading down, picking up an old dagger from one of the corpses along the way. Reaching the top of the stairway, I looked down into the darkness, the path ahead foreboding to say the least. Recalling the disintegration trap placed upon the first stairway we found far to the northeast, Huelsman looked to me and then tossed the dagger down the stairs, waiting to see what would happen. Fortunately, the dagger simply banged and ricocheted off the stone steps, suggesting the way forward wasn't trapped, at least not in a way that would cause our immediate destruction. The way looks safe enough, Redfern commented with a nod. The chamber searched, the stairway leading down located and the acid and scroll secured, there was little more for my party to do on this level. Hence, we were free to descend to the second level of the dungeon and continue the Destroy the One Plant quest. Descending the stairway, we were appalled by the amount of carnage lying here, bodies and blood and decomposition almost guaranteed to sicken the hardiest of men. Clearly, some sort of massive battle had taken place here recently, the number of corpses here significantly more than up in the chamber we had just passed through above. Wanting to look around, we then heard a commotion from the lone hallway leading away to the northeast, a small crowd cheering at times in the distance. Looks like more of the same, Huelsman commented, inspecting several of the bodies. Humans and infernals, there must have been a fierce battle here. Question remains, where did all these infernals come from? Sainairs wondered, still appalled by them. They can't be from the evil root forest. What do you think, Darius? Cartha asked, standing alongside the ex-ultimate. Darius considered but stayed silent. Sometimes, what a person doesn't say can communicate volumes, too. Reading his body language, I suspected Darius knew something but wasn't willing to share. However, the infernals arrived, it appears the ultimates faced them down right here, and fought to a stalemate, Redfern surmised, looking about. The combat here was wicked and intense. A sudden cheer erupted again from down the hallway, the voices monstrous. While we didn't appear to be in any immediate danger, it was something we would need to investigate. Those voices aren't human, Kartha suggested with a low voice, quite concerned. They are probably infernal. Quietly approaching a massive chamber beyond, we soon realized there was some sort of combat going on, a small group of creatures cheering them on. Staying in the shadows, we carefully approached to within 10 feet or so of the hallway's end, peering at the odd sight beyond. The chamber looked to be a small arena, complete with an upper balcony where spectators could watch and cheer on combatants from above. Two infernal creatures were battling one another, a spined devil and a horned devil. The monsters seemed quite entertained by the spectacle, so there was little chance they would notice us. "They're fighting one another?" Sainairs asked, bewildered. "They don't have anything else to do," Redfern proposed. "All they know is torture and combat, they've reverted to their base instincts." "There are several exits beyond," Eswin whispered, nodding with his head in each direction. "But there is no way we can get past these infernals without being seen." "What should we do?" Kartha asked, looking directly at me. "You, there!" I cried, pointing toward the spined devil in the center of the chamber and causing all the demons to turn in our direction. "Let's settle this, just you and I." The spined devil spit some blood, then turned in my direction, sizing me up alongside my party. All the infernals here were surprised to see us, but that surprise turned to bloodlust and they all started slowly stepping in our direction. "Halt!" The spined devil commanded his fellow infernals, causing them to stop in their approach of our party. "I want to hear what this puny humanoid has to say." "You and I, one-on-one," I began, stepping forward to face the spined devil by myself. "If I defeat you, your brethren stands down and allows us to pass. If you win, we won't destroy all of you. Shall we?" The spined devil laughed hideously, then nodded yes, inviting me into the center of the chamber. The various monsters here began their cheering again, fully expecting the spined devil to quickly rip me apart. As it attacked, I set the blink dog on it, our new hound blinking in just in time to stop the devil's attack on me and wound the devil at the same time. This, in turn, gave me the time to plant a skeletal seed, a monstrous hero rising from the ground and starting to shoot orbs of energy at the spined devil as well. The devil growled at my surprise attacks and lunged for me again, myself dodging the attacks and keeping to the shadows where I could strike and do extra damage. Soon the monster was worn down, but one of its clawed attacks did open a serious wound on my right leg and its barbed missile weapon did catch my left shoulder as well, requiring me to quickly quaff a potion of moderate healing. And so the combat continued for several more minutes, myself enduring additional strikes while pummeling the spined devil with blink dog bites, orbed energy from my skeletal seed and my own backstabs from the shadows. Finally, the monster seemed worn down to almost death, and as it lunged at me a final time, I struck it with my final orb of alchemist fire. The throw made at point-blank range, the greenish liquid immediately burst into flame and the devil screamed in horrible pain before collapsing to the floor, now a burning husk of a monster. Immediately, all the infernals ceased their laughs and jeering, utterly stunned by my victory. My party then stepped out of the hallway to ensure that I was okay, perhaps just as surprised by my victory as well. "That was magnificent," Darius shouted, clearly happy with how I had single-handedly taken out a spined devil on my own. Sainairs and Kartha smiled and nodded, quickly healing me back to full health as well. Shock now turning to revenge, however, the infernals turned to our party and slowly crept forward, apparently unwilling to keep the agreement their leader had just made with me before the battle. Darius tried to convince the monsters to stand down. We had defeated their champion fair and square, but they were full of bloodlust and paid him little heed as nearly a dozen horned devils, spined devils, and rocks rushed our party to attack. The resulting combat was long and hard, my party needing every resource at our disposal to defeat all the monsters. The last of the infernals finally went down, however, and I breathed a big sigh of relief, glad to have defeated such powerful adversaries. "Let's have a look around," Eswin suggested, beginning a search of the circular chamber. Searching the area, we found nothing of interest or value. Darius suggested, however, that the battle was significant for our party anyway. Hopefully that was the main force of infernals left after the ultimates above locked them down here, Darius suggested. We'll probably encounter more, but hopefully not in such numbers. My heroes nodded to one another, thankful that the difficult encounter was now over. All the infernals dispatched here within the Hall of Victory, we could now proceed past the area. Exits led away to the west, north and east as well as southwest back to the stairs leading up to the first floor. Heading east, we reached what appeared to have once been a barracks, the chamber utterly wrecked and its beds, footlockers, tables, and such all thrown about in haphazard chaos. Far worse, copious amounts of blood were everywhere, splattered across the walls and even the ceiling as well as across all the ruined furniture here. Fortunately, the grisly chamber seemed uninhabited, so we should have been able to do a quick search in relative safety. Conducting a thorough search, we soon found the mangled bodies of at least a dozen ultimates, their robes stained with blood and some of the corpses missing an arm or leg. These hapless souls had died quite violently. Darius seemed particularly shocked by the carnage. I am guessing the ultimates here were attacked in their sleep, Darius speculated, continuing to poke about. The infernals absolutely butchered them. Yes, there was a sorrow here, a combination of rage and sadness that I could feel but couldn't see. The sensation was eerie and I worried something bad was about to happen. A moment later, some ghostly apparition appeared in one corner of the chamber, flying toward us before disappearing again. Remaining alert, several more apparitions appeared, flying about in haphazard fashion. A dozen more ghostly images appeared, melding together to form ghostly entities reaching from floor to ceiling, rotating like tornadoes and wailing in sadness. It's an amalgam. Kartha shouted, recognizing the undead monster. Don't get too near, it can drain energy levels. Watching the ghostly, rotating, cloud-like things there within the chamber, I felt the temperature drop and sensed extreme cold from what could only be monsters. As they attacked, my instincts warned me that these creatures were powerful, magical, undead, and very dangerous. As the battle raged, most of us were touched by the amalgam and endured appendage-numbing cold. Worse, both Eswin and I were drained levels, requiring the use of 2 more restoration scrolls. Soon, however, a final blow was struck and the amalgam disintegrated in a blinding flash of light. They weren't ready to die, Darius commented, breaking the silence. So their souls remained bound to our material plane, joining together to form these sad, hopeless monsters. It's good that we destroyed them. I could sense their overwhelming sadness, Kartha added, her empathy quite strong. The rest of my heroes nodded, glad to have the whole experience behind us. Picking the lock on a door leading south, we marched down a long hallway and entered a large but relatively empty chamber. Dominating the center of the room was a makeshift sarcophagus, crudely made and easily opened. Past the sarcophagus against the far western wall were dozens of humanoid corpses, stacked atop one another. The chamber reeked of rotting flesh, a stench that was hard to overcome. However, we also detected the smell of dead infernal here as well. Something demonic had either died here or was still here, perhaps mixed in with the humanoid corpses. Entering the room and giving it a quick search, the sarcophagus appeared rather simple and was easily opened. Searching the corpses against the western wall, they were all ultimates who were likely killed battling the infernals down here. While we still strongly disliked the ultimates as a whole, we couldn't help but feel sorry for all these slain human beings. Easily opening the sarcophagus, we found the corpse of what appeared to be an infernal succubus, a female demon that, so far at least, we hadn't faced in combat. Even in death the succubus appeared beautiful, with ruby-red lips, thick brown hair and a slim body that only betrayed its infernal nature by 2 small horns and leathery wings. Darius carefully inspected the succubus corpse and verified that it was truly dead. We need not fear it. I've heard of these things, Eswin began, examining the corpse along with Sainairs and Kartha. They charm you, then drain your life through their kisses. Yes, they're very difficult to resist when you're alone, Sainairs added, aware of them as well. Even in death, she still looks so beautiful, Kartha observed. I wonder what killed her? I wondered the same thing. As I continued to examine the succubus and concentrated, I soon recognized that her natural ability to shape change was still affecting what she looked like. Clearing my mind, I then saw through her magic and recognized that her body had actually sustained a variety of wounds, at least one of them fatal. The succubus corpse otherwise void of anything important, there was little more we could do in the room. Hence, we exited the primitive burial chamber back through the door to the north. Returning to the Hall of Victory and continuing west, we entered a darkened area, the walls, floor, and ceiling all coated or painted with some dark substance, applied unevenly and looking rather amateurish. In the center of the dark chamber, we saw what appeared to be several glowing crystals hovering in mid-air, twinkling in our artificial light. The crystals were quite small, but they were colorful, shining like tiny stars halfway between the floor and ceiling. Looking at my heroes, I ordered them to cautiously approach the hovering jewels, and almost immediately we stepped into an unseen spider web. The webbing almost totally hidden in the darkness, the strands of the web were, of course, quite sticky, and several of my heroes struggled within the web. Worse, a giant black widow spider suddenly appeared before my party and attacked. It wasn't like it crawled in from somewhere close by or was hidden, it just instantly appeared out of nowhere, as if it had teleported here. As the giant spider attacked, I sensed strong intelligence from the monster and even wondered if it was something more than a spider. Indeed, the first thing the creature did was wave its legs in a strange, hypnotic pattern, almost as if it were casting a spell. The 6 glowing gems then transformed into giant black widow spiders as well. We now had 7 spiders to deal with. Appearing as an elegantly dressed young woman or a giant black widow spider, the initial spider was an arachnia, infernal and highly intelligent, able to cast magic user spells with ease. The arachnia had summoned 6 giant poisonous spiders as well and, together, proved quite the challenge, especially as several of us were initially caught in her web. As the last of the spiders were defeated, the arachnia used a last bit of magic and teleported away, escaping her demise. That first spider we encountered, I think it was an infernal, Darius finally commented, catching his breath. Good riddance. Eswin barked, putting his weapon away. I will kill it the next time it tries to attack. Unfortunately, there was nothing left within the chamber and we continued our way west. Continuing west, we encountered another wizard-locked door at the end of the hallway, the letter X painted in blood across the door. It appeared someone didn't want us to enter, or, perhaps, something on the other side of the door to escape. As the door was wizard-locked, Darius cast a knock spell and easily opened the door. Beyond, we found what appeared to be a ruined kitchen, a combination of foodstuffs and all their containers lying haphazardly about as if purposely knocked over. A strange smell permeated the air, not unlike rotting meat, and I suspected something wasn't right here. The kitchen was rather extensive, with a variety of closed doors at the back. Nothing had yet jumped out at us, however, so we gave the chamber a thorough search. Searching the kitchen, we could generally tell that all the food here was several weeks old. It was all rotting now and inedible, but that likely coincided with when the infernals first arrived as well. Reaching the back, we found 2 large doors leading into a possible meat locker, the handles of the doors containing a long wooden rod or staff to keep them closed. Hence, it would be easy to remove the wooden rod and open the doors if we wished. There was probably a good reason why these doors had been barred. What to do? First, removing the wooden rod keeping the doors closed, I gave one of them a tug and peered inside. Attached to the ceiling was a single iron hook, from which hung several large slabs of meat. A variety of additional animal cuts hung from the walls and most of the countertops as well, their flesh rotting in the moist dungeon air, and causing a stink that was revolting. A moment later, a hooded ultimate appeared from the back of the locker, his face completely covered by his dark robes. As he stepped toward us, several more ultimates appeared, their faces similarly covered. Brethren! Darius exclaimed, quite surprised to have found some surviving ultimates. Soon, 6 ultimates stood before our party, their hoods completely hiding their faces. As none of the ultimates had yet to speak, Darius stepped to the center one, happy to have found some survivors. The ultimates continued to act strange, concerning Darius. In turn, he slowly reached up and pulled the hood back of the central ultimate. To our absolute horror, the being there was actually a writhing mass of maggots in human form. The sight was so terrifying that several of us became frozen with fear, unable to move. These maggot men then pulled down their hoods almost in order, revealing additional masses of maggots in human form. Words could not describe just how terrifying these monsters were, writhing, squirming maggots so substantial they were the size of a fully grown human. As if the sight of them wasn't bad enough, they then attacked, using their fists to pummel our party. As they attacked, the maggots acted like rot grubs and tried to burrow their way into our flesh as well. Additionally, the maggot men were expert magic users and assaulted us with their magic too. Fortunately, the monsters were easy to damage, and as the last of the maggot men were defeated, their animated bodies fell apart and millions of squirming maggots spilled to the floor. How utterly revolting. The battle over, we quickly escaped the meat locker, leaving the writhing masses of maggots on the floor behind and securing the doors again with the same wooden rod we had found earlier. That was definitely a place we would never enter again. Those wretched things, Darius began, just as shocked as the rest of my party. Those were once ultimates who practiced necromancy, bringing dead things back to life. The infernals must have trapped them in there and they became, those monsters. Still quite disgusted by the encounter, at least the worst was over now. And that's a wrap of episode number 42, Gep Power Tower Dungeon Part 2. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.